Do we have any more visitors today? Bill?
Yeah.
Yes, Rodney
Got
Green.
Rodney Green.
Okay, Rodney been here before.
Yeah.
Rodney, Jake's brother-in-law, son-in-law, I'm sorry. And Rodney travels all over the country with seed business and has a desire to belong, and we're happy to have him here. Thank you.
Welcome, Robin. Always good to see you back with us. Go ahead.
And I have today a visitor, Will.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you as well. Do we have a visitor in the back?
Well, I'm also the speaker. I'm Nora Eldridge and I'm representing Rikki's Refuge.
Welcome, Nora. We can't wait to see your presentation this morning. Curtis, you have a familiar face with you, but an official visitor.
Possibly better hat.
Welcome back, Claire. We love having you here. You're a regular, you know. Hard to even call you a visitor. Okay. I don't have much to announce this morning. Do we have any announcements? Cal?
A quick comment about the Christmas party. I overlooked something that was very important the night of the Christmas party. You remember the food tables that were set up here had this enormous centerpiece in it, with a candle burning in it. Well, Martha Roby made that for us, for the Rapidan Garden Club. Because Bill and I were coming here to their meetings and helping them set up the audiovisual equipment. So as payment to us for that, they said, well, we're gonna give you, you want to do the centerpiece. Well, it turned out that Martha, who was a member of the Rapidan Garden Club, is their main masterpiece builder of these crazy things. And she and Bert came here at noon on Tuesday and spent about an hour building this crazy thing. It's amazing. And I forgot to thank her publicly for it. And I was hoping she was going to be good today. They had shoulders hurt herself somehow. So just think about it sometime and see her, thank her for her kind work.
Thank you for that, Cal. Thank you, and please keep Martha in your thoughts and prayers. She had a spill and quite the injury. She's doing okay, and she wanted to be here this morning. She reached out and advised that she just couldn't because of the spill that she took. So we'll just keep her in our prayers, and we'll thank her for the centerpiece. And my apologies for not being here. Board of Supervisors meeting that I was hoping would be one of the, short and sweet one, ended up being literally, we went on till just about 9 o'clock that night. So by the time it was over, I knew y'all were probably wrapped up and partied out. So I'll catch you at the next one. All right, Pat.
Just want to say that after the meeting today, if you have a few minutes to stick around and offer your suggestions for next year's parade, we'll sit here for a few minutes. Unless somebody comes into the theater room, which case we'll find another spot to do the same thing. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, if there's nothing else to discuss, we'll have our presenter come up.
Thanks. All right. Introduce you first, if that's okay. All right. Our guest today is Nora Eldridge, a director of Rikki's Refuge Animal Sanctuary between Nasons and Unionville. Nora moved from New York to Virginia in 1993 and opened her massage therapy practice, which she closed in February 2020 and has been enjoying retirement. Okay. Nora has been volunteering at Rikki's Refuge since 2011. She's not daily hands-on with the nearly 1,300 animals who call Rikki's home, but attends events, helps with fundraising, manages some of the social media pages on Facebook, serves on the board of directors, she's retired, remember, and is now arranging Rikki's presence at various events, managing tour attendance, and helping with the tours. Rikki's Refuge is an all-life, no-kill shelter. Many of the residents are elderly, handicapped in some way, abandoned, or surrendered for many reasons. They have approximately 22 different species and they mostly coexist peacefully. So Nora, please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Just one question.
Yep.
I know how to turn it on. How do I pick up pictures?
Yep. The button's like,
Oh, okay.
let's see if that's
It wasn't turned on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's crucial. Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Everybody's ready. Well, thank you, Pat, for that really nice introduction that I wrote. Write it yourself. I think you would have done a fine job anyway. So it's Pat today on Nora Eldridge. I've been involved with Rikki since 2011. Gosh, it's getting to be a long time. And it's been a very, very satisfying and fulfilling experience. We are a 501c3 IRS sanctioned charity. And we exist on private donations and a lot of volunteer help. And we do have staff who is hands-on with the animals, because that's a little beyond me. But we on the board think up all these exciting projects to do outside of, the necessary things. And we're always looking for volunteers, which is another reason that I'm here to maybe give you some background, a little bit of education about Rikki's, and to suggest ways, to volunteer. But let's start with the program. Okay, that worked. This is one of our horses. Her name is Moon, and she's pretty elderly. We have a lot of senior horses on the property. We only have a couple that are newer, that are younger, than Moon. And one of our cats. I don't know all the names of the cats. I sometimes make them up. So I'm not sure what his name is, but it's a really, really good cat. We have almost 600 cats at Rikki's Refuge. Yeah, and the rest of the animals are divided up into 21 other species. So we have horses and pigs and emus, and dogs, ducks and geese, pheasants, peacocks, chickens, lots of chickens, some pigeons. We have pigs. We have so many pigs. I think we're out of room for the pigs. People surrender, especially the potbelly, when they get to be too big. They bring them home, the little tiny pigs, and always in that cute, and people have them in apartments. And then they get bigger to by 200 or 300 pounds. And a pig's nature is to root. That's why they have those funny shaped noses. So they start rooting in your carpet and your couch and your bed and your chairs, and typical pig behavior. So people want to surrender them when they come to Rikki's Refuge. And we take as many as we possibly can, because they always have to be fed, twice a day. We also have a herd of cows, a flock of sheep, a herd of goats. And we have some interesting animals that I'll tell you about in a second. That's more. Okay, that is Freckles. The guy with the horn is Freckles. He's a big attraction for visitors at Rikki's Refuge. And the goose in front of him flew in one day without his mate, and Canada goose mate for life. He had lost his mate. He flew in, he became friendly with the donkey, who has since passed away. He was about 40-something. Donkey's not a long time. And our donkey had lost his mate also, and he was very lonely and depressed. And the goose adopted him. And it was the cutest thing, because he would hang with the donkey all day. And when he thought it was too hot, he would herd him into the running shelter, get him out of the sun. And if you came up to the donkey, his name was Bub, and Goose didn't know you, he would come after you, taking his head along the ground and hissing at you until he got to know you. He was very, very protective. And Bub died at like the age of 40, something like that. And the staff came out one day and found Goose also deceased. He had just was passed in his sleep. But he was quite an old guy too, But there's a lot of interspecies relationships and friendships at Rikki's, which is really very, very interesting. They get along better than a lot of people do. Okay, this is Murphy. This is one of the cats that lives at the Life Center building, which is like our corporate headquarters. And she's very, very friendly. And when we have board meetings there, she likes to come and sit on my lap, usually when I'm wearing black or navy blue. Okay, that's Bob and Goose. That's the friendship that developed between the two of them. And all the pumpkins that you see in the field, those are all picked up by volunteers we go out, through a large portion of Virginia and pick up the unsold pumpkins from churches and farm stands and places like that. They donate them to us. And we come back and drive into the field and the staff helps unload. And everything on the refuge eats the pumpkins, except maybe the cats, and they play with the little ones, they knock them around, you know. We went out one time to, a really good pumpkin patch down around Madison. I guess southwest of Madison, and we came home that day with 4 tons of pumpkins in the trucks. And my truck was loaded so high up, I borrowed a truck from Rikki's, and it was so loaded, I'm driving up Route 20, the pumpkins like bouncing out on the road. I'm watching them in the side mirror as it bounces up and down Route 20. But that really helps with the feed bill, because everything eats them, and they also reseed themselves. So during the summer, you'll drive, you know, around the refuge, you walk around the refuge, and you'll see the volunteer pumpkins growing in the fields. Sometimes they don't make it too much because the cows eat them, the goats eat them, the deer come out of the woods, you know, and they also eat them. Okay, there's 2 of our horses. The one closest to us is Bella. She's a filly, and there's Moon behind her. She's a lot shorter than Bella. Bella is one of the youngest residents on the refuge. I think she's about maybe 6 years old, something like that. And she was rescued from one of these places that keeps the mares pregnant, and they harvest, you know, the hormones for hormone replacement therapy for women, which is incredibly mind-boggling. This is the one example of the yard art that the Girl Scouts did for us quite a while ago, and you'll see this at the front gate of Quarter Horse Lane when you drive in, and it's really cute. And a lot of these were scattered throughout the refuge. So we need the Girl Scouts to come back and do some more yard art like this. That would be really, really neat. And this is in front of the fence before it was painted, so it gives you a good idea of how horrible the fence looked. We had acquired a 60-acre horse farm, a quarter horse ranch rather, that abutted right up to the original property at Rikki's. So we own from Route 20, like all the way back to the refuge property. And the fence was there, it had not been painted, it was really looking pretty shabby until we got our hands on it. And here we are, starting to paint it. You can see some of our sheep back there in the big field. And this was all done with volunteers, essentially 3 volunteers. And we decided to do it rainbow colors because it represents, for our animals, like their particular pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Most of our animals are elderly. If they had gone to other places, they would have been euthanized, but they come to Rikki's and they have like a lifetime to spend at Rikki's, whatever's left of their life. And then there's the fence looking hideous. Another one of our cat residents. Don't ask me the name. One of our peacocks. I think that's Frank. And that's Curly Q, a very nice little duck. She has curly feathers that you really can't see here, but she has beautiful curly feathers. And there's the fence and snow. It looks really good against the snow. And this is Heidi. She's one of our cows. She's another fan favorite. People come to the refuge that want to see Heidi. And I don't know the cat's name, but she looks very happy, very comfortable. And this is Scarface. Pardon me. Scarface came to us from, I think it was Kuwait. We partnered with some rescues around, well, in the Middle East, basically, Kuwait and a couple of places, Egypt, and one other country. And we frequently get cats from there that were picked up off the streets or surrendered. And they come to us in all kinds of physical condition, and they get rehab, they get home, excuse me, they get a lifelong home, they get a lot of food, love, and attention, and they spend their lives with us. And I think I'll do. Those are some of the cat runs or cat houses, because not all the cats are free range. They all have places, all the animals have places they can go into to get out of the weather. They go in at night for safety's sake. So we just have a few free rangers out on the property. think I'm at the end. Okay, so that's the end of the slide presentation. Like I said, we're looking for volunteers to do all sorts of projects. I have a couple of handouts, for you. We're also having on Christmas Day, we're having a donation drive. And the gates will be open from noon until 2 o'clock. And you just come in the front gate of Quarter Horse, drive down the driveway, just be careful, go slowly, and follow the rainbow fence around to the Life Center building. And Doug, our amazing sanctuary manager, will meet you there with a very jolly Merry Christmas. And he'll tell you all about the refuge and the animals who live there and their names. And people can do a self-guided tour. Among the animals that are there, we have horses and some cows and sheep, some pigs and goats. And we have an amazing Black Angus steer named Lucky. Lucky was hand raised, and when his family had to surrender him, they brought him to Rikki's. And he acts like a dog. He comes when called, he wags his tail, he loves visitors, he loves treats. And his best friend is a miniature horse named Eddie, who's about 26 or 27 years old. And Eddie and Lucky hang out together all the time. It's really, really neat to see. Eddie's not quite as friendly, but he comes up if you have treats for him. He'll deign to come to the fence and take the treats out of your hands, So we hope that you come out, that people come out on Christmas Day. Bring us some donations. We always need food for the animals, dry and canned cat food, dog food, sheep feed, sweet feed, all sorts of things. And that's really about it, unless anybody has any questions.
What's the total population of animals?
About 1,300.
Is there a vet on staff or?
No, we have a vet in Culpeper, who we use. I think he does come out to the refuge where some of the smaller animals you can bring in, but it's sort of hard to transport a cow. I don't know if those big animals, now that I'm thinking about it, I think you need a big animal vet for that. But when he comes out to the refuge, he looks at the sheep and he says, "These are the biggest sheep I've ever seen in my life." And they're just out, grass and sheep feed and water and sunshine, and they can frolic like sheep should, and they do get sheared. They get sheared every year because those coats get really heavy and it's really hard on the sheep. So you do have to keep them sheared. Yes.
Do you have a vaccination deworming program?
Yes, we do. Every year, the residents are up to date on their shots and flea treatments and the deworming and whatever they need. So rabies, whatever is mandated, they're certainly up to date on that. And that's a lot of fun for the staff because we have a large colony of feral cats. And of course, it's all enclosed and they can't get out. But they have everything a feral cat would want. They have places to go into, like, dog houses and crates and things like that. They have trees to climb. They have friends. They have food. They have everything they could possibly want. And when they have to get their rabies shots, the staff has to catch them. So I have never participated in catching the ferals, and I would want to, but the staff does it. They do a great job. Yes. Who's Rikki? Rikki, we can ask that at events. People come up and say, "Are you Rikki?" And sometimes we play with them and say, "No, I'm not," but ask him, So we do that. Rikki is actually a cat that belonged to Carrie Hilliard's mother. Carrie is the CEO of Rikki's Refuge, which is under the banner of Life Unlimited of Virginia, which is the corporation that is the 501c3 designated. So Rikki was a cat, and the refuge was named in her honor. I think she died when she was like 17 or 19 or something like that. And Rikki's is very big on alliteration, so Rikki's Refuge. Yes.
Do you have any problems or trouble with coyotes?
Potentially, I guess we can. I'm not really involved in that, but we do have, some of the wild things come in like foxes. And I guess there's probably weasels out there. And I know there are coyotes, so there are bears. Some of the cameras have picked up bears coming to visit. Yeah.
Or do you have any more donkeys there?
I think we do have one donkey. Yeah.
Yeah.
We also have barn dogs, very good at keeping away the predators. And that's another job that we have, is to keep everything mowed, because you keep the grass short and the predators don't have any place to hide to sneak up on the chickens, like, during the day. Yes, sir.
Where specifically is the refuge located?
We are on Route 20 as you're going north out of Orange towards Route 3. And it's only about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes out of the town of Orange. We're on the right-hand side. And if you look for the rainbow fence, you can't miss us. Yeah, that's us, that's where we are. We don't have like a big sign that says Ricky's Refuge because people would tend to just drop animals there without making arrangements, because it's a whole procedure if somebody wants to surrender an animal, and a lot of it is legal. You can't just take in somebody's animal, you have to have all this paperwork done, that they have voluntarily surrendered the animal, and you can steal it, yes. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you have a lot of big challenges, but what do you figure is the biggest challenge? By season, maybe, I don't know, maybe this season, for example.
Our biggest challenge, quite frankly, is financial, is raising money, because, you know, things are tough for a lot of people, for most of us. And Ricky's is no exception, so you have 1,300 animals that have to be fed twice a day. And then you add in vet bills, you know, medications, staff, maintenance of the property. And it becomes challenging. So I think probably our biggest challenge is finances, and also volunteers, having a lot of volunteers to come in and help with a whole variety of tasks that the staff doesn't have to do. And a lot of it is unskilled labor. I mean, if I could help paint the fence, anybody could, yeah, trust me. Even though the goats helped, they really did.
And-
Yes, sir.
And so is there also a limit to what you all will do in terms of rescue and?
Well, there has to be a limit, depending on, can we afford to support them, can we pay for them? You know, pay for the need is really what it is. And also space, like we have so many pigs, I think Piggy Paradise is filled to capacity. Yes.
What does it cost every day to feed them?
It's about $1 an animal.
$1,300 a day? Wow.
Yeah. When people say to me, oh, I'd like to do this, I'd like to run a rescue, I'd like to start it, I say, yeah, talk to Carrie. Because you don't know what you're getting into until you're there, until you started. She had really envisioned this to be just for cats. And then she came home back to Refuge one evening, and there was a horse tied to the picnic table. And she came home another evening, there was a dog tied to the picnic table. Then animal control called and said, what do you know about emus? She said, well, nothing, but she learned like really fast, you know? So it just went on from there, just snowballed on from there, you know?
And there's a retail space in Fredericksburg.
Yes, there is, we brought that up, you know, our thrift store is called Retail. And it's on Lafayette Boulevard in Fredericksburg, and it helps support the Refuge. And we also need volunteers to work there, to process the donations that come in, to do the pricing, to put it out on the floor, to keep the sections neat, to help run the cash register, all sorts of things. I mean, people you just don't realize what you're getting into until you're into it. And it's like, okay, how are we gonna do this? But it gets figured out, you know, it really does. Yes.
How many acres are on the property?
450. We use about 100, you know, for the refuge purposes, and the rest of it is left virtually, you know, more or less wild, because we have a lot of wild things that come in, like the deer, they know it's a sanctuary. And we do put out maybe outdated dry cat food for the wild critters, and that keeps them away from the chickens and the turkeys and the ducks and the geese. Can't do much about the hawks. They'll fly in, you know, what can you do?
Is there any training of any of the animals? You can't train that many, but I'm thinking about maybe some dogs that you pick up, and they may not be friendly. So what do you do about that?
Well, the dogs that we have, a lot of them are retired hunting dogs, and also other dogs that have been surrendered. We don't adopt out to hunters because we are a no-kill sanctuary. So now and then you'll get a hunter who comes in, and usually Doug can deal with them very effectively. Just say, you know, gently, you know, we don't adopt out to the hunters, you know, whatever, and then they just leave. Our animals mostly stay on the property. We will have some that we get used to walking on leashes, and we can take them to events because they're a big attraction. At events, these are a couple residents, you know, from Ricky's. When we had more volunteers and it was a little bit easier, somebody would get a goat into a big crate and bring it to an event. We'd have a goat there. We'd have our bloodhound, Moose, who has since passed away. We have a variety of animals, even, chickens sometimes, the chickens that were common enough to be tamed. Plus, it can be very stressful for the animals to go to these events. They have to be used to people and crowds and noise and people petting them. And you also have to have a volunteer dedicated to taking care of the animal, to just make sure that nobody, has various thoughts in mind, that they're being, petted appropriately, being approached, and that nobody's harming them, or trying to take them. So. Yes, ma'am.
I know you're open Christmas Day, but we can't come that day. If we wanted to come, how do you see?
You can send an email to tours@rickysrefuge.org. We're hoping to start tours again in the spring, maybe when the mud has dried up a little bit, because it can't get like sort of muddy. That's about it. If you're on Facebook, check out pages. Ricky's Refuge is the main Facebook page, and we'll, announce things there. Or like I said, you can drop an email to tours or events@rickysrefuge.org. And I monitor both of those, so I do look at them like every day and answer people back and, try to, set up a tour or something in conjunction with our secretary manager and, what works for him. Anyone else? Yes.
Specific fundraising drives or activities throughout the year that you.
We do, we certainly have them on a pretty ongoing basis right now. Like, we had a big pay bill come in, but we had to raise a substantial amount of money, so we had a fundraiser for that. And this lovely lady has offered to do a fundraiser for us in the spring that we'll talk about, and we'll get Terry Hilliard on board and talk about that. We always accept monetary donations. You can go to rickysrefuge.org is the website /donate, and then that pops up, and you can donate in a whole variety of ways, through PayPal, through your credit card, a whole bunch of platforms that you can send money. And we do have specific fundraisers, from time to time, or we'll celebrate somebody's birthday. So-and-so is turning 65, can we get donations total $650 or $6,500 or whatever. So we do that. In fact, we raised one time enough money to buy a Black Angus cow from the neighbors. Their business is raising, one of the businesses is raising Black Angus. And this one cow, Sarah, from the time she was a tiny little calf, used to break out of any pen they put her in and come to Ricky's and hang out with our cows. And she was a little tiny thing, so she was small enough that Doug could pick her up and bring her back. And then she got bigger, so we had a call and said, please come get your cow. And she would follow the tours. And she loved the cow, she loved the people, she loved the treats. And we eventually bought her. We did like one of these flash fundraisers one Saturday on Facebook, and I put it up and I said, this is Sarah. And I explained what I just had said to you. And I said, for the price of a week's worth of coffee at Starbucks, you can help save Sarah's life. We need $1,000. We raised that in like nothing flat. And we raised even more. I mean, people were just so generous and just, chipped in so wonderfully. So they went over, Carrie and Doug went over to pick up Sarah and handed over the check. And the rest of Sarah's family were being loaded onto the truck to go to market. And Sarah stood there and watched, and she let out one long, drawn out move. And then Doug said to her, let's go home, Sarah. And she followed him right back to Ricky's. No rope, no nothing. She just walked in. He opened the gate. She walked into the field. She has never tried to break out. So that's why she's called Sarah Starbuck. So we do stuff like that, and people respond. It's just so beautiful. People just come together. We have a presence in 35 countries outside of the United States. We have people who follow us from all over the world. And they shift in too. So you do stuff like that. It's very heartwarming. And just really, really lovely of people to chip in and help save, an animal like that. And Sarah still comes up to the fence to be called, and she's like, "Do you have any treats?" "No, I don't." So she walks away. I'm sorry, I said.
So did you move to Orange specifically for Ricky's, or how did you?
Well, I had read about Ricky's a couple of years before I started to volunteer. And then one Christmas, they were having Christmas tours. And I said to I said, well, I'm gonna go down. And then my sister said, what are you doing Christmas Day? I said, I'm going out to Ricky's Refuge. So she tagged along. We each brought a couple of cases of cat food. And I stayed to volunteer. And that's how I got involved.
Do you work with Orange County Animal Shelter?
Yes, we do. Yeah, I'm not sure who the contact person is now. Carrie is really that end of it, you know, so she would know more about that than I do. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
What would you say is the strangest or most exotic animal that Ricky's Refuge has taken in since you've been there?
Probably the emus. I would say the emus. We did have an iguana at one time, which made it very controlled, you know, climate controlled circumstances, you know, they don't do well in the cold. So I would think probably the emus, without a doubt, were the most exotic. Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Anyway, yes, sir.
Is there any sort of programmatic relationship with Orange County Public Schools whereby students from a school or schools come once a year, once a quarter to interact, volunteer?
They can set that up. They can get into events at rickysrefuge.org and we can certainly talk with them and set it up. We do have groups come like that, not on a regular scheduled ongoing basis, but as I guess as the need arises, we have Girl Scout groups who do the same thing, you know, Boy Scouts, 4-H, you know, people like that. Sometimes they volunteer, sometimes they want to come do a tour. If they do come and volunteer, then we'll give them a tour, you know, as a thank you. So. Okay, has my allotted time run out?
Good. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
That was wonderful, and thank you for all your hard work, and that's, many of us on the rest of the perspective. Okay, and we have a little bit of get a picture? Thank you.
I met Nora at Bloomsbury at an event that Jess had hosted through the museum, so more connections through Rotary.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Pat. Well, it looks like we have finished up a little early, which means anybody interested in discussing parade details, feel free to stay, but do we have any more comments, announcements? Bill?
When we had our Christmas party, and we announced a scholarship, Rodney Burton, Nancy Sherman's husband, is a Rotarian in Richmond. And he went back to the Richmond chapter and reported that this group up in Orange runs a parade, they light a Christmas tree, and they provide scholarships along with all these other things that they do. And he said they all stood and it was a round of applause for the Orange Rotary Club. So thank you for what you do.
That's awesome. Thank you, Bill. And just another example of how we will never truly know the impact that we have and the ripple effects of what we do. So thank you for mentioning that, Bill. And I just want to personally wish each and every one of you a very safe and happy holiday season and a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I just send my love to y'all and your families. And if you're traveling, be careful. If you're not traveling, good for you. And just take care, and we will see you in 2024. Unless you're a board member, we'll see you on the 28th. Okay, and so we will adjourn.
So if you want to stick around and talk and share your thoughts about what we can do better on the parade next year, stick around, we'll circle up the chairs. If not, don't worry about it. Go to work. All right.
So.